Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. All right, couldn't sleep, and I don't know. I get this way sometimes for reasons that I'll probably never tell you. So I was reading over Doug Papa's article about the mock trials. What did he call them? Mock juries, which apparently is routine. It sounds all very sensible to me. I believe it is very routine that huge corporations, probably other entities, that when they are facing a potential huge judgment against themselves, that they run mock trials to see how they might do before they actually take the chance of going to trial. Makes perfect sense, obviously, even though there's probably a fairly significant cost to that. That probably costs, I don't know, it's got to be a few $100,000 at least, probably more, maybe into $1 million or more, which just gives you a small indication of how big the judgments have to be in order to do these kinds of things. 3 of them. The MGM denies it. So, and they lost basically in all the 3 mock trials. So, and he goes through a fair amount of the of what's going on in the trial process, and I'm only going to focus on a few things. Very loosely. I barely prepared for this. I literally went to bed and I couldn't sleep. I'm usually not up quite this early because I stay up really late. So, the 2 things, I don't know. I'm not trying to pick apart the things that Doug Papa says here. Neither one of us is a huge corporate attorney, and if we were, we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing, and we'd probably be really rich. So, and these things are super complicated. I was looking into it last night. There's more than just the Safety Act. There's another law, which I think is part of the Safety Act, the TRIA, which was passed immediately following. I think the Safety Act, it's the other way around. I think the Safety Act is part of that, and it came later. And it's been renewed several times, and it's still active now. I think it was renewed the last time in December 2016, which is right before Trump entered office. Hilarious. Okay, let me continue. So, and I'm not gonna go over like every aspect of these laws because I don't know them. I don't need to repeat what I just said. I'm not a huge, powerful, corporate attorney or Washington lobbyist that knows these laws inside and out. This is how all these laws are written. They're all written basically to screw us over. They really are, and they're written to benefit huge corporations and the people, the executives that run those corporations. It's not just the guy at the top, man. You think that there's tons of people making tons and tons of money. Whatever. So it's called the TRIA, the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002. It was signed on November 26, 2002 by the president, which would have been Bush. But it's been renewed on several occasions: December 2005, 2007, 2015, and then, like I said, in 2016. Which, by my calculations, right before Obama left and right before, Trump was going to begin. So, but it states that, the TRIA created a temporary federal program that provides a transparent system for shared public and private compensation for certain insured losses resulting from a certified act of terrorism. This one falls under the domain of the Treasury Department, which is different than what I read about the Safety Act, which from what I read about that, the Department of Homeland Security is the only entity. The Secretary, the Homeland Security Secretary, Christian Nielsen in this case, is the only person who can actually designate something an act of terrorism. But this is the broader law, and I think the Safety Act is within this law, which came later. It doesn't matter. It does matter, but I'm not going to. I already said that. All right. So back to Doug Papa's thing. There was just a couple points in here I dispute. I do. And well, MGM Resorts International, before seeking mediation, believed that the post 9/11 law, known as the Support Anti-Terrorism by Fostering Effective Technology Acts, that's the Safety Act, may give them immunity. I guess maybe MGR wasn't too successful, wasn't too sure that stunt would end up in their favor, so off to mediation they went. That part I agree with. But he goes on to say that, you know, people would probably, and he's just hypothetically speaking, people will say, well, they already had terrorism insurance and active shooter insurance. And they very well may have. And then he goes on to say that, you know, well, MGM also has to consider the fact that if they lose in a huge lawsuit, their insurance premiums are going to go up massively, and could go up massively, and their stockholders wouldn't like that. Let me take those two things together right here, and I'm gonna cover a lot because I'm gonna go back to the gambling just briefly and end probably there. So. They may have had terrorism insurance, okay, and active shooter insurance. And to my knowledge, I looked it up, and every insurance institution, company that's offering these kinds of policies, they're all different, you know. But to my knowledge, those are two separate things altogether, okay, active shooter and terrorism. And you know, and I read something about active shooter, and basically. You know, the one I was reading about talked about that they might have, what's it called, a deductible, essentially, you know, for like the first few people that are killed in the policy I was reading. But many, and then that goes on to say that many active shooter scenarios, that's all that's killed is 2 or 3 or 4, okay? And that's their dilemma. That's been their dilemma all along. Is that basically this was an active shooter kind of thing, but he killed so many people. And it exceeded the number of people that normally would be killed in an active shooter situation by an astronomical amount. But it doesn't matter. Legally, technically speaking, it's an active shooter situation. So if I understood it right, you know, from a financial legal liability standpoint, they're screwed. The other thing, and I don't know that for a fact. I'm just speculating. I don't know what their insurance policies are. I don't even know the insurance policies that exist in general. I'm just giving you my best informed opinion based on common sense and doing some reading. But my question is, you know, in terms of having terrorism insurance, the first thing that popped into my mind, because of the Safety Act, and they were certified at the Route 91 Music Festival, their security provider did have that certification, which would essentially give them immunity, like Doug Papa said, because that's how it was designed. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of that because I already have in other things, and there's somebody else that could do that. But if that's the case, why would you even need terrorism insurance? Why would you have terrorism insurance if something's actually an act of terrorism and you're going to get immunity from it? Why would you need terrorism insurance? That's one point. The other thing he goes on to say is, and he's not saying that definitively here. I'm just that these are thoughts that came. I'm not picking apart him. I'm just speaking about what I think, and that's just that. Okay. I'm not here to please anybody or displease anybody, period. All right, so the other thing was he goes on to say, that their insurance premiums could stand to go up if they lose, if they have a massive, hefty settlement in the lawsuit and they lose. And a couple things from that, and again, I'm not going to repeat myself again. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that these huge, massive corporations with insurance companies and reinsurance companies, the insurance company industry is so complex, and there literally are insurance companies that insure other insurance companies because it just is stacked and layered, and some of these events are so catastrophic that one insurance company can't handle the what happens. But I don't exactly think that corporations, are the same as like some dude who's calling in, who just had an accident, and it's just not exactly that same process. That that was my general feeling. That it was a little bit more complicated than that. The other thing was, which is just, it's just hilarious how the world works. Like their insurance premiums would be determined by not by how many people were killed, not by how many, how much devastation it caused, but by how successful or unsuccessful they are in the lawsuit. I mean, that makes me feel real safe. That makes me feel that's a real comforting thought. That basically it's not how many bodies or how many people are massacred. I mean, they can massacre as many as they want, but as long as they're successful in the lawsuit, their insurance premiums don't go up. And this is my own thoughts. So that was what I thought of that. And I went through, I did look into, but it's very complicated. It really is. Is this the one where I ended up? That's how I ended up at the, and I was surprised to get the TRIA. I knew that the Safety Act was part of something else that's like 100 or more pages. Actually, maybe even be, several hundred pages. I think the Safety Act is like 24 pages, and it's like a subsection of, I think, of the TRIA. So back to this is the preliminary report. I think it is. I'm pretty sure. And you all know how I feel. That I basically think that gambling, the motive was to get back at the casinos because he lost most of his life savings in the last year or so, or whatever it was, roughly speaking. It was like he lost $1.5 million out of $2 million, I believe. That's, I think, when basically he going back a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years, he was at $2 million in cash in his bank accounts, and he was down to $500,000. He was accelerating in his losses, and whatever he was doing previously to have a successful sort of maintain a lifestyle. And I don't think he was even winning ever that much, but he had sort of gamed the system, not in some very sophisticated mathematical way, but some kind of crude mathematical way to basically get some perks, live there sometimes, get all these things, and maybe come out slightly ahead, by, again, crudely gaming the video poker system, and basically, live that way, but not lose, and maybe come out. But something changed, and which makes sense. It's their casino. They can do whatever they want. If they want to change their machines, they can change their machines. And something did change, and he went from, not losing that much or even gaining a little bit and getting all these other things, all these other benefits, these hotel stays, vacations, whatever things are comped. He went from that to basically losing and losing more and more, to the point where he was basically at a point probably where he could be blown out in one night, okay? Where he could literally have a bad night and be, so his system was over, one bad night, lose $300,000 in a night, and you're down to almost nothing. And you're almost going, you're on your way to broke. But what I was just looking at, in terms of, because everyone says, not everyone, but so many people say this over and over again, but he searched these other venues. He searched these other venues, Fenway Park, and La Jolie, or I forget how to pronounce that beach, and Santa Monica Beach. my first point to that is, I was looking at it. It's one day. One day. On 5/18/17, he searched, Fenway Park. And he also searched the official Red Sox team store and the Venice Ale House. So I guess he was going to maybe get himself some memorabilia, before he massacred all the people. Okay, and obviously I'm being facetious, but and in this other search on that same day, he does search things like open air concert venues, biggest open air concert venues, and that would but it's one day, okay, of some searches on 5/18, and then there's some that are a little bit before on 9/4, but these are all Vegas related. These are all Vegas related. Life is Beautiful is Vegas, okay? All Vegas from there on in. So on one day, he searched Fenway Park, searched the Red Sox team store and Venice Ale Place, and the Santa Monica, one day. One day of searches. One day of searches, put it on the scale. One day of searches to Fenway Park and Santa Monica Beach and open air, then, and the team store to get some memorabilia. I'll put that over here, and then over here, put $1.5 million gone from the hotel where he did this, and basically his whole life, the way he had been living it for the last 10, 15 years over. Put that on one scale, and put the one over here, the one day of Google searches, which only took probably, an hour or so. Okay, that's your scale. And that's people's justification for saying that the revenge motive for losing his life savings or most of his life savings in his way of life gambling, that's their justification for saying that that doesn't make sense. I disagree. And I think the gambling motive, revenge of the casino and on Vegas does make sense. And every other search, which are very, very close to the actual date, and this is just the one day, the 5/18. Every other search is Vegas related, and those searches that are Vegas related are almost within a couple weeks of him, few weeks of him doing it, and then or while he's in the hotel, or like days before it, I mean, that's just, I just dare someone to dispute where I'm doing something wrong. I mean, this is 9/23. This is all Excalibur Hotel. Life is Beautiful. Not NV Gun Show. El Cortez Hotel and Casino. This is at 9/23. It's just the 5/18 is the one day. One day of Google searches. Not even the whole day of search. Probably search for an hour. The Red Sox team store too to get the memorabilia. And over here, the $1.5 million out of $2 million in savings, and basically the way he had been living his life for the last 10 years, gone. Those are your two. Do you think maybe it tips the scale? So, that's it. That's pretty much the story there. This guy called in again. He did. He called into the Paris, I forget the guy's name, Paris Live show, which I listened to, the podcast. It was good. And Doug Pop was on there, Catherine Lombardo, and he was disregarded pretty much. And I understand it's just one dude. I believe the guy. But I also understand that basically just because it fits what I believe, actually happened. But this guy, if you're familiar with him, he's Rodney 4K, I think is his handle over at Twitter. And it is. It's Rodney for and he basically claims that he met Paddock once. It's Rodney Fork. And he has the whole thing that he met him at the Excalibur. He was at the blackjack table. That Stephen Paddock noticed him, had a system to his blackjack, which he described it in more detail in the phone call, and I think I understand it. I'm not some mathematical genius, but one guy from college described some system he had that he tried out, and it actually works, but you can get blown out very easily. And it's just a matter of basically, and you need tons of money, and you basically can get blown, but you basically just keep upping your bet until you win, and then you start over. Okay, but you can get, and you keep up, you have to double it. It gets crazy very fast, believe me. And I even tried it, and I got blown out, okay? And, when I didn't have much money, and I was working for a living and making a modest salary, whatever. But he was doing this at the blackjack table. My system was from roulette, and the college friend I had had a roulette system. And I don't even want to describe it because I don't want anyone to try it, because I did get blown out. And actually, they changed dudes because I was doing well just for a little bit. Nothing crazy, but it was working for a while, and I was like, wow, this is really working. And then I got blown out. So, but he was doing that at the blackjack table, and Paddock saw him doing it. He knew he had some kind of system, so he inquired, and they started talking. And he claims that Paddock started talking about that the casinos are cheating. And this guy said that they weren't, something like this. I'm paraphrasing. I may be getting it wrong. And that Paddock, got mad when he said they're not, and that he was going to get his revenge one day. And he said, "See all the windows," and started talking about, I think, AR-15s and stuff like that. And so a lot of people dispute what he says because it sounds like it's somebody who's just seeking fame for this one story. But he called that show. And, that it's just, and people say, well, he was in the casino. There's no windows inside the casino. Everybody says this. I believe this guy, but again, it fits what I believe. So I understand people saying that I'm just doing what everyone else is doing in terms of these ridiculous theories about terrorism, which would be great for the casino if they were true, because they would be immune. They would be off the hook, etc., etc., etc. And that is the story there. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Please give me a like down below. And I will see you in the next video. Later, man.